All right. Let's go back to the bleachers first.
Jerry Marston from Whippany. You had indicated that you were not going to be appearing on the ballot in the state of New Jersey. Will you run for the presidency and possibly appear that way?
Well, that took long. Well, we're in the process of making that decision. And I'll make a decision by late spring, early summer on what I'm going to do. It's not an easy decision. It's quite an undertaking, and it's a decision that ultimately I'll make, but that my family has a lot to say about too, in terms of whether they want me to go forward with that or not. So we'll figure it out late spring, early summer. You know me, I'm not a wallflower. Once I make up my mind, I'll let you all know. But what I said before is absolutely true. I'll never appeal on the ballot again here, not for any other job. I've won the job twice now in this state that I wanted to win. And I can't imagine myself doing any other one in public life inside the state. Being governor is an extraordinary opportunity and a great job. And I can't say I loved every minute of it. With some minutes that have not been nearly as pleasant as others, but I've loved almost every minute of it. So we'll make that decision, within the next 3 months or so, and we'll let everybody know when we do. But I'm proud of what we're doing here right now, and if that has some application to the rest of the country, and people tend to like that, then that might recommend us well for the next job. We'll see what happens. But thank you for asking and getting it out of the way. That's really good. In the back, yes, sir.
Forgive me, Governor Christie, I might faint. You're an idol of mine. My name is Vincent Stevens. I go to Montclair State. I'm a sophomore and a political science student. I'm here with the student government of the SGA of Montclair State. I want to speak to you in regards to the Republican Party of New Jersey, because I remember watching a speech of yours, and you said that we can't govern if we're not elected. And as simple as that statement is, it makes a lot of sense. So what have you done, and what will you continue to do after you leave office to help the Republican Party and Republicans that have your same ideology lead so that we can fix our fiscal mess in New Jersey?
First off, thank you for coming. Appreciate it. And I found out from President Cole, who's here, that there's 1,800 students at Montclair State University from Morris County. So from our county, 1,800 students at Montclair State University. So that's a great thing, to be able to have that institution available to our young people to go to. Listen, I've done a lot to try to help to build the party in the state over time. Campaigned for folks at every level of government in our party, raised countless tens of millions of dollars now in the last 5 years for the Republican state party in New Jersey, for local county parties by appearing at their fundraisers and working with them, and for individual candidates. In the end, though, I will tell you that victory, while lots of people contribute to it, and I mean not only with their money but with their efforts, victory for any candidate is up to the candidate. A lot of folks sitting in this audience today who are or have been public officials. And what you know is that in the end, more than party, people vote for the person. Now, there'll be people on either extreme of both parties who will only vote for a Republican or only vote for a Democrat. You know folks like that. But in the middle, which is where most of our elections in this country, from local to national, are decided, people make a judgment on the candidate. And I think the best thing that we can do to build our party in this state is to encourage better candidates to run for office. In the end, there's no way I should have won in 2009. 750,000 more Democrats than Republicans. John Corzine outspent me $33 million to $11 million. He was the incumbent governor with all the advantages that come with incumbency. There's no reason why I should have won. The reason I think in the end I did is because people looked at what I was saying and looked at what he was saying and said, you know what? We agree more with what he's saying than what the governor's saying, and we're going to vote for him. The only person who can make that happen is the candidate. And so what I'd say to you and to anybody else who wants to make the party stronger, yes, you should work for the candidates you believe in. Volunteer your time. If you're in the position to donate money, you should do that too. All that stuff helps. But do it for someone who you believe in. Do it for someone who you have confidence in. Do it for someone who you think can communicate the principles you talked about us sharing in a way that's direct and understandable to people. Because for someone like me, who this has become my profession over the last number of years, 6 years or so, it's everything to me. But for most of you, you've got lots of other things in your life to tend to and to work on. And so when you do give us the time to listen to us, we better be straight, honest, direct, blunt, and understandable. And it would be nice if we had some good ideas too, right? So you got to be able to communicate that. I've tried to communicate to candidates throughout this state that that's what they need to focus on. Don't focus on all the peripheral stuff. Focus on what you believe in and then deciding how to most effectively communicate that to people. If you do that, you can win. If you don't do that, you're going to lose. And I don't care whether you have like all the greatest technology in the world. Like I love all the, I'm on Facebook and on Twitter and on YouTube more than any governor in the country. I love all that stuff, right? And I love metadata and data mining and all that stuff. But let me guarantee you one thing. You could have the best metadata and data mining operation in the country, and if you have it for an inferior candidate, you're going to have great data for a loser. It's in the end what the candidate has inside of himself or herself and how they communicate it. So the best way to build this party, in my view, is to try to recruit more people who really care and can really communicate to people. If we do that, along with our ideas, we'll win more elections than we lose, and we'll get the chance to govern. Okay. That's what you should be shooting for if you're a political science major at Montclair State.
Hi, Governor. Barbara Ames in Whippany. A lot of Americans, I think, are concerned about our loss of liberties that we've seen in this administration and recently in our country, the growth of government, and with it, the loss of our freedoms and liberties, control over our health care, control over our education of our children through Common Core and a federalized education program, control over the internet, control over our personal data. It goes on and on. So I wonder if you would comment on that as relates to your philosophy, and maybe just use Common Core as an example, how we improve and increase the liberties and hold on to the liberties of our people while we're having a federalized program of education come down from Washington, D.C., taking away parental rights and taking away local school board rights also.
Sure. A few things generally, then I'll address the Common Core issue directly. On the general proposition that you're putting forward, this is why elections have consequences. Elections have consequences. You see, there's different philosophical approaches that you just outlined fairly well. The current president's belief is that government is the solution to every problem, and that no matter what ill or problem, real or perceived, is out there, that there is a government agency with a new program out of Washington that is best accustomed to fixing it. The philosophy of our party is that government is a last resort, not a first resort. That there needs to be a safety net for people in need, that government has to provide for the safety and security of its citizens, but that the problems that we run into most days are not best solved by government, but are best solved by the people of the country acting in their private capacities as business people, as citizen activists, to be able to help to solve the problems from the local level on up rather than from the federal level on down. People forget all the time that it was the states that created the federal government, not the federal government that created the states. And so we need to get back to that philosophy, but that is a very clear choice that was available to everybody in 2012 and in 2008. And the majority of people in this country chose the president. And some of those, and I run into them all the time, who voted for the president now say, well, I didn't know he was going to do this. And I say, you didn't? You weren't listening. You weren't listening. He didn't make any mystery of it. Yeah, he talked about hope and change and all the rest of that, but you had to listen. When you listened, you knew this is what he was going to do. And so elections have consequences, and we need to understand that the philosophical approaches of each candidate matter a great deal, because you can't anticipate every problem that's going to come across a president's desk. So what you need to know is, what do they believe? Then you can apply it to a potential problem and have a good idea of which way they're going to try to solve it. Now, on Common Core, I'll tell you that Common Core was started by the nation's governors. One at a time, they came together and tried to form common standards, not common curriculum, but common standards. Now, through the Obama administration and the use of Race to the Top and other federal vehicles to try to put the federal government more behind that, it's created a number of really difficult and, to me, troublesome implementation problems with standards. Now, New Jersey has always stood for high standards that we have implemented at the state level. Sometimes we've been successful, sometimes we haven't, but we've always stood for that. So I think one of the things that we need to look at, and I know a lot of other states are looking at it, and I have a commission looking at it right now, of teachers, parents, and administrators, is how do we have great standards in New Jersey that are in touch with our local concerns and our community concerns? So I think you'll see that group come out with a report relatively quickly, and then I'll act on it when it happens. I don't think, in the end, that you're going to change people's, for some folks, and especially for the president, his philosophy about the way to solve problems in this country. And for those who disagree with that, as you do, then we need to work really hard to make sure that we elect people who have the differing philosophy, who put first the protection of the individual liberties and freedoms of the people of the country, understanding that those are not given to us by the government. Those are given to us by God. And the government is supposed to be there to enforce and protect those liberties and freedoms, not to determine how we exercise them. And so that's my philosophy about how we should be going about it. That's the way I've tried to govern in New Jersey for the last 5.5 years. And it's the things that I'll continue to speak out about for however long I'm in public life. So thanks for raising the issue. I appreciate it very much. All right.
Benjamin Berkman from West Orange. Do you believe that the federal government should tie minimum wage to inflation?
Should they tie minimum wage to inflation? No, they shouldn't. We've done that now in New Jersey. Really bad idea, in my opinion. The legislature sent me a bill to increase the minimum wage in New Jersey, a large amount in one fell swoop. I sent the bill back, and I said to them, let's increase it the same amount you're talking about, but let's implement it over 3 years so that we give businesses an opportunity to plan for the increased costs that they're going to be incurring. They didn't like that idea. So what did they do? Imagine this now. They put it on the ballot to amend the Constitution. In our Constitution now, we have a set minimum wage in the Constitution that goes up every year based on inflation. This is not what the Constitution was intended for. This is another one of the temper tantrums by the Democrats in the legislature who are unhappy about the fact that I was elected and reelected. And so they don't use the system in the way it's supposed to be used. They use it in a way that puts that kind of stuff into the Constitution. Just this past year, they put in a dedication of a certain amount of the corporate business tax to fund open space acquisition. No flexibility for whether we have a recession, for whether we have demands from other parts of government that people think are more important than open space. No, not anymore. A percentage of the corporate business tax now constitutionally must go to the acquisition of open space. This is governance by temper tantrum. You know, we have a system. Legislature passes bills, sends it to the governor. Governor decides whether to sign or veto. When I veto, it goes back to the legislature. If they can convince 27 senators or 54 assembly members to override my veto, it becomes law. That's the way it's supposed to work. Now, these same people, by the way, don't want to give you initiative and referendum. They don't want you to be able to put stuff on the ballot for a constitutional amendment. You know the only people who can put something in New Jersey without some exorbitant number of signatures on the ballot in New Jersey to amend the Constitution? The legislature. Governor has no say in it. They'll have to send it to me for approval. And then they put it on the ballot. When they put it on the ballot, let's face it, you get a ballot question that says, do you want to pay a higher minimum wage? We know what happened. Voters in New Jersey said, sure. You want to dedicate a certain amount of the corporate business tax to buy open space because open space is so nice. That's the way they word the phrase, right? To help preserve more wonderful open space in New Jersey, would you like to just take a little bit of this money over here and put it over here? And everyone goes, yeah, sure, why not? Okay. Well, every one of those, yeah, sure, why not, costs money. So no, I don't believe the minimum wage should be tied to inflation. I believe that business owners who pay it should be able to make those decisions about what they pay their employees, and if their employees don't like what they're being paid, they can look to go get a different job someplace else. So the fact is that the more of these decisions that we take out of the hands of the private sector and put in the hands of the government, it makes me laugh sometimes. People will say, well, that's fair. Well, okay. And then I hear the very same people say to me, yeah, but the government doesn't work. God, I hate the government. They can't get anything right. Well, what are you giving us more to do for then? If we can't get what we're doing already right, you're giving us more to do. Doesn't make any sense. So yeah, no, I'm against it. Sorry for the toot on that, but I'm against it. I should have just said no and moved on, but all right, all right. Yes, ma'am, right there.
Hello, Governor. My name's Fern Walk, and I live in Hanover Township. This has been really friendly to you, so this might be a little bit off. Okay. So I wanted to ask you, in light of the fact that New Jersey has a bankrupt transportation fund, an underfunded pension fund, underfunding of women's health clinics around the state, forcing many to close, and unfunded school mandates such as PARC, what are your priorities for where our taxes do go? Because clearly, not clearly, but doesn't seem to be education, transportation, and women's health services.
Okay. Well, we spend $12.5 billion in state money out of $33 billion on K-12 education. So more than a third of our budget, more than a third of the state budget goes to K-12 education. So I would think that's a priority. You may think it's not enough, but we pay $17,700 per pupil per year. It is the highest per pupil spending in America. So I don't know how you can make it a bigger priority. Second, on transportation, we are currently spending $1.6 billion a year on infrastructure, matched by $1.6 billion a year in federal money. That's $3.2 billion a year that we're spending on roads and bridges and mass transit every year. And we're not bankrupt. It's funded through 2016. Now, I've said that I'm happy to consider reauthorization of the Transportation Trust Fund after it expires in 2016, and that all options for funding that are on the table as far as I'm concerned. I've had conversations with leaders of the legislature. Those conversations are ongoing. We'll come to a resolution at some point, but we're in the midst this year of spending $1.6 billion, and we'll spend $1.6 billion of state money again next year, with a match from the federal government of an equal amount. On women's health clinics, we fund now at a greater level than we ever have before federally qualified health clinics that provide health care not just to women, but to women and men of any means to be able to go and get treatment for any health problem. What they wanted me to also fund was an additional $7.5 million for Planned Parenthood clinics that deal just with reproductive health, do not deal with all the other issues. They have reproductive health services at every one of the over 100 federally qualified health clinics across the state. And while they said there was going to be massive closings of Planned Parenthood clinics, there has not been. There have been a few that have closed, but not many. And the fact is, I, in this kind of budget, am not paying for the same services twice. Anyone who wants to go and get those services can get them at public, federally qualified health clinics that are paid for, in large part, by the taxpayers of New Jersey. And For those who are indigent, I'm one of the governors in the country who expanded Medicaid. And we have more people on Medicaid today than we've ever had in New Jersey who need that assistance, and that Medicaid allows them to go to whatever doctor they want to go to get the type of health care they need. So the idea that I haven't made this stuff a priority, with all due respect, is just false. I mean, those are the liberal talking points. I understand that. I understand where it comes from, but it's simply not true. So if you're spending a third of your budget on K-12 education, and by the way, that doesn't count what we spend on higher education as well, which would put it above a third that we spend on education, to say that education is not a priority is wrong. When you say we're not spending money on transportation, we're spending over $3 billion a year, every year, and it's funded fully through fiscal year 2016, then we've made that a priority also. And when I'm funding over 100 federally qualified health clinics and expanded Medicaid for those who are indigent and need health care, so they don't have to go to emergency rooms anymore, but they can go to physicians, what's that done for New Jersey? This year, charity care in our hospitals has decreased by 43%. 43%. That means those folks are not going to the emergency room anymore to get their primary health care, which is expensive, inefficient, and bad for them because they see a different doctor every time, and no one gets to know their history, their family history, or anything else that helps us to diagnose a person and treat them effectively. That's why I decided to expand Medicaid, so people can have an opportunity, regardless of their economic circumstance, to go to see a doctor regularly that can take care of their health and prevent them from getting sick rather than dealing with the emergency room afterwards. So I'm glad you asked, because to the extent that there's folks in this audience who have misconceptions about this because of things you hear or read, those are the facts. And I'm proud of our record on that, very proud of our record on that, and we're going to continue to do those things. But I will tell you what I won't do. I'm not going to pay twice for a service just because it's politically correct to do it. I'm not going to pay $7.5 million for something that I'm already paying $100 million for with federally qualified health clinics. So if Planned Parenthood wants to continue to have clinics opened around the state, that's fine. They get federal funding, many of them for that, and they also raise private funds for that. And if they want to provide those services and can raise the money to be able to do it, great for them. But from my perspective, when we have the kind of fiscal challenges we have and we want to spend more money on other things, I'm not going to pay for the same service twice. But thanks for raising the question.
Hi, Governor. My name's Brian McLean. I'm the local shop steward here in Hanover Township, so I feel as though that's a fair, let you start, know where we're coming from. We feel bad for you initially because of your analogy. You did get left with the check. And if you talk to some of my colleagues, the 5 predecessors belong in jail because they'd never kept the promise, okay? When the majority of my guys took these jobs, they said, the old saying was, you're never going to get rich working for the public, okay? But you'll always have your benefits to be able to take care of your family when you retire. We acknowledge you're getting killed because of Sandy, a lot of different outside things beating you up. But my guys asked me to ask you today, so I hear it right from you, so I can go back and answer the question to them. If your team put in place this plan to get us out of this, they want you to make the payment. So they want to know why, from your perspective and out of your mouth, you know, we understand there's outside things coming at you in a lot of different ways, but I want to be able to hear it from you, you know, as to securing my guys going forward.
Yeah, we don't have the money.
Okay.
I mean, like, listen, we simply don't have the money. And I told you what we need to get the money. So if folks want me to raise the sales tax to 10%, or want me to raise income tax on every working New Jerseyan by another 29%, and if you think that what ultimately will happen will be that people won't evacuate this state like their clothes are on fire, which will create an even bigger problem for us, that's the only way you do it that way. The only other way to do it is say, listen, those promises that were made, and by the way, were also demanded by the union leaders.
Well, we felt one collective in bargaining.
Well, Of course, yeah, right, with political muscle behind it. I mean, let's be honest, okay?
Both ways, though.
Listen, I understand, but all you and I have done over the course of the last couple of minutes, me well before you, was to blame my predecessors, and they deserve blame. But let me tell you something else. Your union leaders, too, knew that it wasn't getting paid for. It wasn't like they thought, oh, well, there must be some secret stash of money somewhere where they're going to pay for this stuff. But they wanted to take the political victory lap. There's politics on both sides. They wanted to come to you and say, guess what? We just got you N over 55 on your pension. How about that? Aren't we the best? Guess what? We just got your health benefits increased. You get even better benefits now, and you don't have to pay any more. Remember, when I became governor, most public workers, not all, but most, paid nothing for their health insurance. Nothing.
But we've always paid into our pension.
Oh, well, listen, great. Great, but you've paid a minimal amount that went nowhere near what your real share should have been. Remember something, the judges in this state, up until I changed it, paid 3% of their salary for their pension. You think that comes anywhere near to paying for a 65% of highest and best salary for a pension? We increased it to 12. And still it doesn't pay for everything that they're going to get. And the teachers were down at 5. It doesn't pay for a benefit when you're going to live as long as we're living now, and it's going to be as a large a pension as it is. So yes, you always paid into it. And by the way, so did most localities. Most local governments, which is why the police and fire system is in better shape than some of the other ones, because localities have paid in. But even so, they're at about 70 to 75% of funded value, and the localities have made all their payments, and the officers have made all their payments. So what does that tell you? It tells you that the benefits, even when everybody's making their payments, don't add up. So what I tell your guys is, people didn't tell you the truth you were counting on to tell you the truth. And the fact is, over the last 3 years on the deal I made, there were $6 billion worth of payments that were, or $6.5 billion of payments that were due and owing. I've made $4.2 billion of them. Okay.
And we thank you for that.
Well, and listen, but that's my obligation is to make every nickel the payment I could. And if I had the money today, and if I run a surplus beyond the surplus that we have in the budget, I'm going to put every nickel into the pension system because it's an obligation that we have. But I can't print the money. So what I'd go back and tell your guys is this. There's a choice to be made now. And part of the plan that I didn't go through in all the detail is I would take all of the pension systems out of control of government and turn them over to the unions. We have $80 billion on deposit in the state pension systems, $80 billion. I would take all of it and turn it over to the unions. So you now manage these for your members. Take it away from the politicians. Take it away from them. Don't let them dip into it. Don't let them shortchange it. You take it and you control it from now on. Because they're the ones who are most responsible to you and the ones you pay dues to run things. That's another part of the plan that I didn't mention before. I don't have any interest in being involved in this, but I have to fix it. So I appreciate that you acknowledge that I got left with a pretty bad deal here.
Absolutely.
But you know what? As my wife reminds me often when I complain about this, no one put a gun to my head, right, to take this job. I did this voluntarily. So, but I want to fix it. But you got to be honest with your guys, and I'll be honest with you, they're all here. Some of the firefighters may remember, I came to the firefighters convention 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, and I walked in Wildwood, and they booed the hell out of me because I was suggesting the first round of changes. And in essence, what I said to them up there was, listen, I understand you're angry, and I understand you're betrayed and feel deceived, and the reason you do feel that way is because you were. And you can boo me all you want. But in the end, I don't understand why you're booing the first guy who came here and told you the truth, rather than the folks who told you and whispered sweet nothings in your ears for decades and stuck it to you just to get your vote. Easiest thing in the world for me to be was say, don't worry about it. We'll fix it. It'll all be fine. You know, don't watch over here, look over here. Let me distract you a little bit, and then I'll be gone. And I'll be one of those guys. I don't want to be one of those guys. I want to be the guy who you may say, he's an SOB. I can't believe what he's doing. But 10 years from now, when your pension's there, you look up my address on the internet and send me a thank you note.
You got it.
All right?
Thank you, sir.
Governor. Hi. My name is Stephanie. I'm from right here in Lake Hiawatha, but I'm actually here today representing an agency in South Orange and Essex County. We work with adults with developmental and intellectual disabilities, and I wanted to talk to you today about the Home and Community-Based Supports Plan as it relates to Medicaid. I know, and thank you for getting that 30-day extension for us, for insisting that they go back and get that. That's huge. But the issue I've always had with the plan is there was really a lack of transparency when it came to the plan, to the planning of the plan, and to the lack of town hall meetings when it came to our feedback as providers. And I'm wondering if there's anything in place to make sure that our feedback is included and that there will be more town hall meetings before this plan goes to CMS and it's more difficult for us to input on.
Well, your lucky day is today. Because as I wander over here, I don't know if you recognize this young lady sitting right here, but this is the new commissioner of the Department of Human Services who is here today. And one of the reasons she's here today is not only because she's worked for decades in the department and cares deeply about the issues you're talking about, but because we were together again last week talking about these issues. And I said to her, every town hall that I'm coming to, I have people who really care about this issue, who are concerned and want answers, and we've got to work on making sure that we get the kind of input we need. It's the reason that I asked for and got the 30-day extension. She is here, as are others from the department, and so if you want to meet and talk with them afterwards,
Yeah, definitely.
you're right to the top. You're going right to the top.
Great, thank you.
Okay, and be able to express your concerns. And it's part of why I do these things and part of why I ask sometimes members of the cabinet to come when I know there are particularly hot issues. And this is an important one. But what I also want to emphasize to you is this. I don't think there's been a governor in recent times who has spent more personal time and more personal attention on these issues. I understand how both the provider community, who dedicates their life to this issue, and the parents feel about their children. You know, what I always try to say to them is, I'm trying to set up a system that allows each one of these people, children into adulthood, to reach the fullest of their God-given potential. Every one of them, as you know, is different.
Sure.
Different challenges and also different opportunities. And so we want to empower you because you're the foot soldiers on the ground for us that are helping to make this happen for families every day. So we definitely want your input. We understand all these things are at times difficult to get through the wall. And we feel the same way about dealing with the federal government, as you know, and trying to get CMS to listen to us. So it's a fight, but it's a fight worth having. Because in the end, I know every parent who has a child, at whatever age they are, with developmental disabilities and other challenges, what that keeps them up at night is what's going to happen to their child when they're gone.
Yep.
And as a father of 4, I can't imagine how difficult that is. So we want to empower you. So you got the boss here. So you're going to get her ear afterwards, and we want to get your input, and we want to try to make the plan as good as it can be within the restrictions the federal government's giving us.
Course.
We're going to try to make it as best we can be. That's why I asked for the extra 30 days, because I didn't feel like we had enough time to get all the input we needed. Now, you should know, we got over 1,000 responses to the rules. We've gone through all of them, but we want to get more, because we want to make sure that we get this as close to right the first time as we possibly can, because it's a major change. So we want to make sure we get it right. So thanks for bringing it up, and see Beth afterwards.
Great, thank
you. All right?
Hello, Governor. Thank you for taking my question. My name is Daniel Niger. I'm a concerned resident of Rockaway Township. You mentioned several times so far today regarding our God-given rights and our freedoms and our liberties. So I wonder what you're going to do about the Second Amendment, our Second Amendment rights in the state of New Jersey. Are you willing to write an executive order granting or defining self-defense as a justifiable need for getting us concealed carry in the state?
Yeah, no, I can't. Not legal. So I'm not going to write an executive order that's not legal and will be overturned in court.
Well,
it's not legal to do it. The state has put forward, in its wisdom, not mine, the legislature, the statutes that govern this stuff. And I can't overrule a statute through an executive order.
Is there anything you can do to to keep regular law-abiding citizens like Brian Aiken, Shanine Allen, Gordon Van Wilder from becoming felons?
Brian Aiken, I commuted his sentence.
I know you did. Yes, you did.
Well, that's what I can
Yes,
do.
yes,
All
you
right,
did.
so if you're asking me, will you do things to help, I've already shown that when I think there's an unjust sentence, which in Brian Aiken's case I absolutely believe there was, I used my power as governor to commute his sentence to make sure he didn't serve time in jail for something that I don't believe he deserved to serve time in jail for. That's an authority I do have as the governor that I can use. And so I will do those things that I think are appropriate, but I can't do things to override the legislature by executive order when they've set statutes on these things. You want things like that? Elect a new legislature. I'll tell you right now, I got Senator Bucco here. If he was in the majority in the New Jersey State Senate, there would be a completely different approach to the Second Amendment in New Jersey than there is now.
I agree.
So, again, going back to the elections have consequences line, they do. But I will tell you that the Democrats who run the legislature right now have absolutely no interest in doing anything other than further restricting your Second Amendment rights, which I've vetoed any number of times, which is another thing I can do as governor when I think they're going overboard. But in terms of what's already on the books, believe me, there'd be a whole list of things I would change. I'd cut taxes by executive order too if I could, but I can't. So we're going to continue to do things within our authority to be able to do it. But in the end, if you really want to change those laws in New Jersey, send me a Republican legislature. And with a Republican legislature, you'll have a governor who will respect appropriately the rights of law-abiding citizens to be able to protect themselves.
Our God-given right, yes.
Well, every one of those rights, by the way, are God-given. No
Absolutely,
rights are
yep.
given to you by government.
Yep.
All our rights are given to us by God, and government is supposed to protect and administer those rights. They don't establish them.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. My name is Rachel Funchen. I'm from Watchung in Somerset County.
Sure.
Excuse me for reading, but I knew I would be nervous.
Go ahead.
I live in one of the 30 towns that a private company is proposing putting a crude oil pipeline through. I think it's an issue that probably a majority of people in this room don't even know about. Many towns are in Morris County here. And I'm very, very upset about it. I lay awake at night worrying about it. I worry about leaks or explosions. A lot of people in Watchung have well water, and if there was a leak, it would contaminate their water. It would go past 2 of the schools in our town. And we have all volunteer first responders, and they would never be able to handle a catastrophe like an oil, a crude. It's very explosive back in crude oil, and they would never be able to handle an emergency that would come from a leak in a pipeline or an explosion. And I've read that it's supposed to come from Albany to Linden, get refined in Linden, and go back up to Albany. It wouldn't even be for use of the people of New Jersey. So I just wanted to know if we could count on you to help protect the people of New Jersey from this dangerous oil pipeline.
Well, you can count on me to help protect the people of New Jersey, but I'm certainly not going to make a pre-decision on something that's going to have to be reviewed and considered by the executive branch. That could get us in a whole lot of legal trouble first if I prejudge something that one of my commissioners is going to have to make the initial factual determination on. And the Department of Environmental Protection will make an initial factual determination on any application that comes before them. I would also tell you, though, too, that I'm concerned about the environmental effects of sending all this oil by train. The oil's coming. Now, the question is, how does it get here? And we have seen over the course of the last number of months a number of train derailments that have led to enormous environmental incidents and injury because of that. So you have to balance all these things. So I'm not going to give you any commitment one way or the other because I haven't seen the materials. I won't see the materials. My commissioner of the DEP will. He'll consider those things and then he'll make a recommendation, all of which can continue to go through a legal process that exists for people to be able to express their opinions on them. But I want everybody to understand that this issue of pipelines is a lot more complex because it's not as if we're going to say the energy isn't going to be trucked or shipped. It's going to be on train. Pardon me? Yeah, and if you have a spill on a barge, that then gets into the waterways, we also have environmental problems. The fact is, we do not live in a world where you can make it perfectly safe when you're dealing with the transportation of energy. And so what I'm telling you is we have certain rules in New Jersey. We will follow those rules. If we approve something, it will be monitored and made sure that it's done the right way. And if we turn it down, it will be because we didn't believe that it comported with the rules and the regulations of the state. But I'm sure you understand that as the head of the executive branch that's going to be reviewing this stuff, it would be wrong for me to be able to say right now, because you asked about an individual project, for me to be able to say something about an individual project, I'm prejudicing the rights of those people who are making the application if I say something about it one way or the other. What I'll tell you is we'll make sure that we review it very carefully, very scrupulously, to be in accordance with the laws of the state of New Jersey, and then we'll make the decision based upon that without any kind of prejudice or anything else to it. And certainly if I gave my opinion now to somebody who I appointed publicly, that would be a problem. And I'm not gonna do that. I appreciate you bringing it up, and I'll make sure that the DEP commissioner knows about those concerns. And I know that we've gotten a lot of incoming on this, so you're not the first person to raise it. A lot of incoming on it, emails, letters, phone calls. So we're hearing about this, so I'm completely familiar with it, but it would be wrong for me to express an opinion about it given the stage that we're at right now. But I can tell you the DEP commissioner knows about it, and we'll follow all the laws and the rules of the state to make sure that whatever we do, will be done in a way that protects and respects both the environment of the state and the laws of the state. All right, so now I am down to last question. Yeah, I know, me too. Me too. But here's the thing. My son, our son, you usually get to say my, hers too. Not used to having her here. Our son plays baseball for Princeton University. We haven't gotten to see him play yet this year, and he's playing today at Seton Hall University, which probably means they're going to take a brutal beating today. But we want to be there for moral support. So Mary Pat and I are going to the game, so I have to have a harder stop on this today than I normally do. So let me go to this lady right back here.
Last question. Oh, I'm sorry. I have to do that? Oh. Carol Scatura from Mount Darlington. This is the last question. It's a senior question.
Okay.
Two short ones. Why do we seniors have to pay full school tax on a Social Security check? I was thinking that, you know, we do want to participate and pay, but as a senior, would it be, you know, like half instead of full? And also, why did the senior tax freeze go from 3 to 5 years? You have to be in a town for 5 years.
Sure, I'll give you the answer to both. On the property tax issue, this shows, it's really interesting, glad you raised it. This shows the tension in the state, right? So I had a question behind me before where Chris said you're not spending enough on education, you're not spending enough on women's health care, you're not spending enough on infrastructure, right? And now I have you stand up and say, geez, can I spend less on education? Because I'm a senior and I've got a Social Security check and I don't have any kids in school and I'm willing to pay for some of it, but I don't want to pay the whole tab. This is the inherent tension, right? I've got people who want us to spend more. They want your property taxes to go up. They want income taxes to go up. They want sales taxes to go up because they want to spend more because that would show I'm prioritizing. You, on the other hand, are saying to me, listen, I got a limited income here. And when I have to pay all this money, it really puts a dent in what I'm able to do with my life day to day and makes it very hard for me to make ends meet. I will tell you that I have great sympathy for your position, but I can't give you any assurance that that's ever going to happen. Now, we have programs, as you mentioned, the Senior Freeze Program and the Property Tax Credit Program, where people get money from the state, and we spend a lot of money at the state on those programs that help to try to ease the rate of increase. We have a property tax cap now at 2%. In the 10 years before I became governor, property taxes in the state went up 70% in 10 years. In the last 4 years, since we had the property tax cap in place, they are averaging less than a 2% increase across the state. Now, it's still going up because, you know, I didn't get the Democrats in the legislature to pass every one of the reforms I wanted, but I got a bunch of them. And now we took a train that was going 100 miles an hour and we slowed it down to 30 miles an hour. That's helping you, along with the freeze, along with the property tax credit program. But in the end, we have to spend less. We have to spend less because this is so expensive now. Remember I said before in response to another question, we spend $17,700 per pupil per year. Now, that number may mean nothing to you in the abstract, but when I tell you it's more than any other state in the country spends, do we have the very best education in the country of any state? The statistics don't say that we do. So it seems to me, you know, I want to try to address your concerns. I want you to stay in New Jersey. I don't want you to move because you can have it cheaper someplace else. I don't want you to leave your family. I don't want you to leave us. But I can't also promise you that I'm going to be able to do that, right? Because if I did that, I wouldn't be telling you the truth. The fact is that there are constant pressures every day, as you've seen in this room, for me to spend more, not less. And I want to be in a position to lower your taxes, not just to maintain them where they are, but to lower them so that you can spend the money the way you want to spend it. You know, I'm self-conscious about the fact that I get to spend a lot of your money and that I, with the legislature, gets to decide how to do that. So all those things, whether it's the senior tax freeze extension or what you're talking about in terms of just the payment of property taxes for schools, 2/3 to 3/4 of it goes to schools. I can't promise you we're going to be able to give you a break on that. I can't. The circumstances we're under now and the things I reviewed, I'd love to be able to tell you, yeah, no problem, I'll get on that right away. But one, it wouldn't be true, and two, you probably wouldn't believe me anyway. Yeah, sure, you can say another thing. Go ahead. Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah, I mean, listen, she just mentioned about the fact that they had corporate health benefits that they said were going to be provided for the rest of their lives and have not now been done, and the overhang of Obamacare. And let me tell you this, one of the things I didn't mention off the top so you understand what we're staring down the barrel of, because we provide these Platinum Plus benefits to public workers, under Obamacare, they say you're not supposed to do that anymore. Can't provide at a high level. And they don't just count on us to do it. Here's what they're going to do. 2 years from now, if you still are providing, if we're still providing that Platinum Plus level, we have to pay a fine to the federal government. The state of New Jersey has to pay a fine. You want to know how much the fine is annually? $750 million. $750 million, which the Obama administration will use to help fund Obamacare. And by the way, it won't just be the state of New Jersey. If you're a municipality and you provide those platinum level, you're paying a check. If you're the county, you provide those benefits, you're paying. Everybody's paying. This is to try to make sure that they bring the costs of that health insurance down to what they consider to be a reasonable level. You can argue with the philosophy, and I do, but those are the facts. So imagine, that's $750 million that you get nothing for. That's a penalty because we won't right-size the level of benefits we're providing. And I will tell you, it's real. It's real. And the idea that I have to try to find another $750 million, because believe me, the federal government won't take an IOU. Right? They do nothing but give out IOUs to people. They won't take one from us. So Senator Bucco's the Republican leader of the budget in the Senate. He can't imagine he and I having to sit down 2 years from now and go, where are we going to find another $750 million? And we have the people over here who applauded, pay the whole pension. That's another $3 billion. Then people who said, well, I don't want to lose my health benefits, right? At the shop steward back there said, I was promised these things. That's